What's going on, football fans? Welcome back to another episode of Breaking the Birds here. We're going to go through the Darius Slay whole contract trade release situation that happened in this past week here. Now, I just got home from Italy, snowboard vacation, so finally ready to get into some of the things here of free agency on the channel. We're going to be breaking down Rashad Penny. But first here, let's go through the Darius Slay situation because there was so much going on, so much being reported out there that didn't make sense. And just to give you kind of a clarity and overview of what exactly happened. So, as we discussed in the offseason preview episode here, Eagles needed to clear some cap room in order to sign free agents, like retaining James Bradbury, retaining Fletcher Cox, that they've already done at this point, trying to bring in a safety, whether that be Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Certainly looks like it, as his market is not what he anticipated, as we also discussed in a previous episode here. But to do that, they would have to either restructure or extend Darius Slay's contract. Now, that is something that was very clearly in the Eagles' plans, along with restructuring Lane Johnson. We haven't officially heard that yet, that had been done yet. Easily could be the case, and we just need to get the information out there. Now, in terms of Darius Slay, he is 32 years old now. He just came off a strong season, had a really good first half of the season, a little bit more average towards the end of the season, but overall a really good season for Darius Slay once again. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, his job is to get Darius as much money as possible. And when you're a 32-year-old cornerback, you're the aspect of when you can't really sign more long-term extensions or get a lot of guarantees, and you become this one-year contract signee, like a Patrick Peterson who just signed another one-year deal with the Steelers, and so Drew Rosenhaus sees the opportunity to get Darius Slay more money. That's his job. So when the Eagles reach out in terms of getting a restructured contract or a reworked deal, whether that be extension or restructure, Drew, of course, sees an opportunity of getting his client more money. And he wants to make sure that Darius Slay gets paid as much as possible. So when Eagles approached him saying, we want to rework the contract here in terms of pushing money down the line, he's saying, we're not going to do that. We want to restructure the contract so Darius Slay can get more money. Now, Eagles call this, I don't even want to say bluff, but they can't do that at this point. So they grant Drew Rosenhaus permission to seek a trade elsewhere and to basically gouge the market for what can Darius Slay make in any other situation than with the Eagles. And so you have reports coming out here that that the Eagles had contacted Dallas Cowboys because they wanted to trade Darius Slay. Now, one, that does not make sense whatsoever. Eagles want to retain Slay. They've always wanted to retain Slay. Slay wanted to be an Eagle, but Drew Rosenhaus his job is to get Slay as much money as possible. Let's just keep an eye on that. Eagles never wanted to part ways with Slay, but they also don't have money that they can just go spend enormous amounts on a 32-year-old cornerback at this point right here. They got to pay Jalen Hurts. They got to keep a team together here. This isn't 2017 with Alshon Jeffrey. And so what happens then is Eagles grant him permission to seek a trade, and then you get all these reports out that Eagles are shopping Darius Slay. Eagles not shopping Darius Slay. Drew Rosenhaus is shopping for a bigger market for what the market is for Darius Slay. Now, the market for high-age cornerbacks, of course, the trade market isn't really what it's supposed to be. You see Indianapolis Colts trading Stephon Gilmore to the Cowboys for a fifth-round pick, basically taking on that contract. Now, it gets reported that Eagles actually do have a trade partner in the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know how secure that source is in terms of the team-specific thing, but they probably had a deal in place to deal Darius Slay to another team. The problem is that team didn't want to take his contract, and that whole thing kind of really fits with the whole market around cornerback. They don't get overly paid. James Bradbury, 12.6. Byron Murphy, just around that same area, $11-12 million per year. Not that high of a contract. Not many guarantees being thrown around out there. Cam Sutton, not that high of a guaranteed market. Jamal Dean, same thing. Young guy, super experienced, doesn't get a lot of money in terms of what his market value was. So there's simply not money out there for a guy like Darius Slay. And so when the Eagles, when Drew Rosenhaus approached back and say, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do a trade for Darius Slay to make less money, because he ultimately wanted to stay in Philadelphia or make more money elsewhere. And so it becomes a standoff between Drew Rosenhaus, who says, then we want Darius Slay released and we can negotiate another contract out there. Eagles call that bluff. They ship Darius Slay. They say, right, fine, we're going to release him. Like, we can't give him more money. That's just not, it's not within the realm of possibility. So they release him. They even got so far to the point where they say it's post-June 1st release. So they were really going to do this thing. And then Drew Rosenhaus, who doesn't have a backup plan, it seems, for Darius Slay, sees, all right, there's not a market for Darius Slay to make more than what the Eagles were actually going to be willing to pay him for a restructured contract or for an extension. And so less than 12 hours later from these information coming out, Darius Slay is back with the Eagles. Everybody's happy. He's signed through 2025. Now, the reason why this is important is because for the Eagles, that allows them to put all this guaranteed money out there and kind of stretch it out instead of having to pay this absurd amount of cap hit in 2023. He's getting a $32 million guaranteed at the signing for this 2-year extension. So within this year, next year, and 2025, when he's signed through, all that guaranteed money can be spread over that contract. You can add void years after that as well. So really, Darius Slay wins. He gets a contract extension with the guaranteed money that he wants. He can retire as an Eagle when he's done here. Eagles get a lot more cap flexibility, and ultimately Eagles don't get a massive need at cornerback. So that's what happened, and that is the logical thinking here behind all this. Now remember, not all of this is sourced. This is based on sources from other reporters out there. I don't have reports on this. I've had a lot of back and forth with Darius Slay and Jennifer Slay about this, because if you use just 2 brain cells and what's been reported out there, you know how this worked, and this is how it worked. So yeah, that's what happened. Hope that gives some clarity over the Darius Slay contract situation. And he's an Eagle still. He'll remain an Eagle for the rest of his career, and Eagles have cap flexibility. Johnson Gardner Johnson, all this thing is a whole different episode. But yeah, thanks for tuning in on this episode here. I'll provide you some clarity on the Darius Slay situation, and we'll get into the Rashard Penny tape breakdown very soon.